Hey guys, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how to make your mix fatter and more professional sounding. So, I'm kind of under request to make a video like this. I've made a lot of videos where I've made some stuff that sounded pretty professional, pretty fat, but I have never really made a video just about how to make your sounds sound fat like that. So, today that's what we're going to be talking about. So, what I've got here in front of me is I have this project file from one of my videos from the other day. You may recognize this one. And what I've done here is I've gone and taken off all the mixing stuff. Like I have a little bit of EQ here and there, but you can see like there's nothing fattening the kick up, nothing on the bass. I don't have any groups, nothing like that. It's just completely raw. This is probably how a lot of your tracks are. You know, a lot of times when you don't really know what you're doing, it can be easy to just drop stuff in like this and not really make it into like a full track and not do the stuff that you have to do to make it sound really fat and professional. But today, I'm going to be taking this and turning it into something that sounds really fat and professional sounding. And then for reference, I've gone ahead and just recorded the track down here, as it is right now. So you can hear it, and we'll go back and forth between that and what we ultimately come up with. So the first thing to make your sounds better and more professional sounding is going to be bussing and processing. So what I mean by this is a lot of times in my videos you may see I take the similar sounds, like in this case we'll do the low end, the kick and bass, and put them in a group and then process those together. And what happens when you do this is you're kind of pushing these sounds closer together. It's like when we have two sounds that are in the low end like this, the kick and bass. If we do stuff to kind of glue these together, like put some saturation on, some compression, maybe some EQ, it's going to take the low end and just really make it feel tighter and more together. And that's what you're trying to get. It's not about really, it is about hearing every individual thing, but it's more about kind of like getting just the low end as a whole to sound really fat. It's like, that's how I try to think of it. It's not just in terms of each individual instrument, but in terms of like the frequency bands. Because think about it, like if we're talking about like club music, for example, like think about like on a DJ mixer, you know, you don't have like the individual things to turn down. You can't turn down like hi-hat, clap, kick, stuff like that. You're turning up and down the bass, the mid-range, and the high end. So I try to kind of separate it this way in my mind as well, and I think it makes it a little bit more effective for working for it, because like I said, you can kind of like do stuff like this and just put the low end together and make it sound really fat when you're thinking this way. So for example here, like we'll put on some saturation. Saturation is really good to glue these things together. Here's before it. And now after it, you can hear it makes a big difference. And we'll also process the sounds individually a little bit. Like I'll usually put a little bit of drum bass on the kick. A little bit of saturator on the bass. Cool, and then typically, you know, we'll put a little bit of EQ on here and maybe cut a little bit there to get rid of some muddiness and then boost the low end. And there we go. So if we listen to this, like here's what it sounded like originally. And here's what it sounds like now. It's a lot fatter and a lot more full sounding. And it's really just because of some simple processing. Just kind of some things to beef everything up and then doing it together. So yeah, and then we'll also do this with all these different percussion sounds here. Like I'll typically do the percussions. Put some drum bass on that. And then also the hi-hats. And we'll also cut the low end out of the hi-hats a little bit. And there you go, you can already hear a huge difference in terms of the fullness and just the overall strength of the track. You know, it really feels a lot more professional now, and it's because of this group processing. So I really recommend that. Like, you know, maybe taking, if you have synths, you could take multiple synths and put them in a group and process them together. Definitely, like I said, with your low end, with the kick and bass, with the percussion and the hi-hats. So that's going to be the first thing, is bussing. I really recommend doing that. It's something that I think can be overlooked often if you're kind of a beginner, if you just don't really know where you're going. But it can really take your tracks to the next level. So that's the first thing. The next thing is honestly just to get better sounds. Like the truth is that a lot of times when I hear submissions, like I just got done doing a feedback stream like 10 minutes ago, and the thing I was hearing a lot is like people just don't really have very good sounds, to be honest. Like you really need to always be pushing to make sure you have the best possible kick, the best possible hi-hat, the best possible clap, like all of this stuff, because it's like, you know, if you don't have that, you can't polish a turd. That's what everybody says, right? Like you can't take something that doesn't sound that good and make it amazing. It's not about taking something and like trying to turn it into something, but more so taking something that is amazing and making it like blow your mind, if that makes any sense. Like it's more like you want to start with something that's like 80% of the way there. Like in the case of this kick, for example, you know, this is a pretty fat kick sample. Like already, even with no processing on it whatsoever, it's a pretty strong kick. You know, it's got a nice mid-range to it, it's got a nice punch to it, it's got a nice low end. Everything is really great about that. So then we can just put this processing on and kind of pull it up a little bit and really take it to the next level. As opposed to if I found a kick sample in a sample pack and then I said, oh, let me take this and I'm going to do all this stuff to it and it's going to end up sounding great. Don't do that. Keep it simple. Get really good sounds to start out with, and it's really going to make a huge, huge difference in terms of the quality of your tracks. Like, so many people send me tracks and say, like, oh, the mixing isn't that good, you know, I need to improve the mix. Trust me, dude, like, it's not your mix. It's the actual sounds that you're mixing. So, yeah, and the way that you do this, honestly, is just through listening to different sounds. You know, the way I got really good at it was I started trying to really tear apart tracks. Like, I took the most professional quality tracks in these styles that I was making, and I just took out, like, different sounds. Like, I took the kick, I took the hi-hat, I took the clap, like, whatever I could find in the track to just listen to on its own, and then just try and go through your sample packs or go through samples that you've made and just listen and see, like, the differences, and you'll really hear it. Like, if you took this kick, for example, and put it up against, like, a kick from, say, like, another Tech hash track, you would really hear, in this case, this is a pretty good kick, so you would hear how close it is, but it's like, you really hear it. It's just, like, this brutally honest way of hearing how good your samples are and really being able to judge, like, how high quality your tracks are. So I definitely recommend doing that. Like, just try to get better sounds, and the way that you find better sounds is by getting the highest quality track that you can find and just tear it apart and find the different kicks, find the hi-hats, find that stuff, and really listen to what's making it sound great and compare it against your stuff. And trust me, you will see very quickly what is doing that. Cool. So the next thing that I would say, really the last main tip that I have for making your tracks sound fatter and more professional, would be opening the mix up and kind of focusing it with EQ a little bit. So we'll take this kick, for example, and bass. So if I turn off this EQ8 here, listen to what it sounds like. So you can hear we had the fatness level there, you know, it does sound like it's like loud and full and all that stuff. But it's kind of muddy. It's not really refined very much. So this is the thing. When you're using saturation and just all this different stuff that we use to fatten your sounds up, it's going to add some mud. And what's going to happen then is you're going to end up with a track that hits very hard, but it's going to sound muddy and weak and flat. So you need to kind of focus your sounds with EQ. And so what I mean by this is, like here, this EQ8 that I added. See how this is cutting out a little bit of mud in the low mid-range there, and then it's boosting the low end? So listen to before this, and then I'll turn it on and you can hear the after. There we go. So you can hear when we turn it on. It's perfect. It takes it there. Like, it makes it so it's more focused in the low end, and then you're not hearing so much of that, like, kind of like low mid-range underneath it. So, again, this is really important. You need to try to refine your sounds like this. You can't just throw, like, some saturation on and think, oh, it's going to do it. Because it's going to give you the fatness, and you're going to get there, but it's going to be a little bit messy, and you really need to make sure you're refining it and stuff. And then I'll also take this EQ8 here, and usually I'll put one like before it as well. I'm just going to cut even more low mid-range. It makes it even less muddy. Another good example of this will be like with the hi-hats. You know, listen to this. That's pretty messy. It's got some low end in it. You know, it's fat and it's full sounding, but it definitely brings out some kind of sharp low end. There's some sharp high-end frequencies in there as well. So if we put on this EQ here, there we go. It's already refined a little bit. And we can even refine it a little bit more. Like a lot of times, people say to just go through and find like these little things. Like you could kind of just take one thing on the EQ here. Again, before and after. So you can hear how this really is important to like just again focus the sounds. It's like it's like the way I look at it is with the drum bus and the saturation, you're kind of like throwing them into the arena, like you're getting them there, and then you have to go and kind of dial them back a little bit and put them right in the perfect place. And that is where the EQ comes in. And yeah, so that's pretty much it for this one. Let's listen to what we have now versus the original. So here's the original. And then here's what we got now. So there we go. With some very simple work, we already have a track that is much more professional, much louder, and much more fat sounding. So yeah, that's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. If you want to support me, definitely check out my sample packs in the description. They're all in there. They're all super cheap too. They're like $5, $10, $15, and you can get some really high quality and professional sounds. If you're looking for some really high quality sounds that are going to make your mixes sound a lot more professional, definitely check out my stuff, because this is something that I put so much effort into when it comes to making these packs and making the sounds just like as high quality as they can be, and make sure that they really hold up with professional sounding tracks. So if you want that, all of that is in the description. I'll also leave my email down there for custom tutorials and all that kind of stuff as well if you want to hit me up for one. And yeah, thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video.